Welcome back. Let's turn to the big focus story at this hour. After stinging observations from the Bombay High Court, bike taxi aggregator Rapido undertook to close down all its services, bike taxis, rickshaws and food delivery in Maharashtra till the 20th of January this year, after the company failed to disclose material facts that it does not have license to operate and has been operating illegally. So Rapido informed the court that the app has now become inoperative in the state. The bench was hearing a petition filed by the operator of this service in Pune and Mumbai against a communication issued to it by the state government on the 29th of December 2022, via which it refused to allow them to operate as a bike taxi aggregator. The operator approached court in this regard, and the court has now kept all the arguments open for further consideration and posted the matter for the next hearing on the 20th of January this year. Now, what the petitioner argues on behalf of Rapido is that the government has failed to frame guidelines with regard to operations of taxi aggregators, be it 2, 3 or 4-wheelers, also saying that it has complied with all the guidelines and conditions as required under the provisions of Motor Vehicles Act. The petitioner during the earlier hearings had also argued that there is discrimination against it, as Uber continues to offer the same service of bike taxis with no resistance on it. But what do the users of these services have to say? Let's listen in to the citizen voices on the issue of Rapido bike taxi service.
एक्चुअली ये ऐप तो मतलब बहुत कंफर्टेबल था एक आदमी के लिए, मतलब आराम से जा सकते थे, टाइम की बचत हो रही थी। ओला उबर कैसा बहुत कॉस्टली पड़ता है, इससे अच्छा रैपिडो था कि वो कम पैसे में आपको मतलब टाइम भी बचत हो रही थी, आराम से जा सकते थे, बहुत कंफर्टेबल था सिंगल पर्सन के लिए जो यहाँ से थोड़ा दूर जाते हैं या किधर भी जाना हो, ट्रैफिक से निकलना हो, तो रैपिडो अच्छा ऐप था।
सो अगर रीजन ये है, अगर रीजन वैलिड है तो ठीक है, बंद होना चाहिए, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम इट क्वाइट कन्वीनियंट था फॉर ट्रैवलिंग। लाइक ओला उबर है, बट अगेन इट्स अ 4-व्हीलर, राइट? सो ट्रैफिक लगता है, सब लगता है। रैपिडो आई गेस इट्स अ बाइक थिंग, तो तुम थोड़ा जल्दी पहुंच जाते हो, एंड इन मुंबई जहाँ सब भाग रहे हैं तो इट्स कन्वीनियंट अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट।
मेरे ख्याल से रैपिडो ऐप जो बंद किया गया है वो चालू रहना चाहिए, बिकॉज आप अभी देख रहे हो जैसे पॉपुलेशन है, यूजुअली जॉब जाने वाले लोग हैं। अगर मैं वेट कर रही हूँ टैक्सी के लिए 2-2 घंटा, मेरा वो टाइम वेस्ट हो रहा है। अगर ऐप है, मैं यूज करूंगी, तुरंत मेरा टाइम बच रहा है उसमें, तो मेरे ख्याल से चालू होना चाहिए।
So Rapido comes to a halt, which means, as you just heard, those cheap rides won't be available for you in Mumbai anymore. You will not be able to hire those bike taxis in Mumbai or Pune. The court has put brakes on this service for now. Of course, this process of hearing, both the sides will continue. The next hearing is on 20th of January. But the question is, why has the government failed to formulate policies for these bike taxis, which you just heard are so useful to the common Mumbaiker? Let me welcome Mr. Vijay Chibber, former Secretary, Road and Transport and Highways, joining us this evening. Also, Sheikh Salahuddin, National General Secretary of the Indian Federation of App-Based Transport Workers. Very good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me here on the program. Mr. Chibber, if I can begin with you, that isn't this a failure of the state government? Here is an issue, here is a service which the Mumbaikars need, which the commuters need in a busy, bustling city like ours. It can help decongest the city. Why is the government not serious about formulating the guidelines? Is it fair to simply suspend this service, saying, well, we do not have a framework for you guys right now, so you cannot operate?
Good evening, and thank you for having me on your show. Happy Lodi to all your viewers.
Thank you.
I think, if you just go back to what you put out just now as responses of some common users,
yes,
it's quite obvious that given the economics of a two-wheeler ride and the last mile connectivity facility that it provides, there is an emerging need for recognizing that this two-wheeler could be an alternative means of public transport. In fact, it is working quite well in various geographies around the world. So I think there is some merit in saying that governments must become proactive and provide a overarching regulatory framework for this. I am not at all in favor of allowing unregulated services for public transportation to be provided, because there are various facets of public service which needs to be looked at before you allow somebody to come on the roads and provide such services. This could be in terms of the consumer's perspective, the consumer safety, the revenue streams and how you will tax them or how you will get some revenues out of it, how they impact alternative public transport like the three-wheeler autos or the four-wheeler autos. So I would certainly not be in favor of allowing these people to run if there is a vacuum. The question is, can this vacuum be filled in quickly enough in case the government feels that this is an appropriate means of public transport, given along with certain regulatory frameworks in terms of drivers' scrutiny, drivers' protection. There are various aspects one looks at. So, when Uber, for example, came first to India in 2013, if I remember, they came to us in Delhi and they tried to sell us this story that, they are a aggregator. It's an electronic aggregator, and they are not really a taxi service. And we immediately got cracking, and we said, no, we will not accept this proposition. We will treat you as a taxi, and while there may be some difference in the framework, we will have to treat you as a taxi. And I recall in 2014 we had issued an advisory to all state governments to facilitate them to address this issue and to then take out state advisories or state amendments as they considered appropriate. Perhaps the way forward would be for something similar to be looked at by the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways in respect of two-wheelers, to take out an advisory in consultation with some state governments, and then allow state governments to meet their local adjustments and local requirements more specifically.
Because the court also seems to say precisely what you just mentioned, that it seems the court says by the state's reason to refuse bike taxi licenses, the court in an earlier order had said nobody seems to have applied their mind to the evident advantages from various perspectives, including reducing congestion, pollution reduction, and efficiency in transport. So I'll come back to you. I want to bring in Sheikh Salahuddin as well. Salahuddin ji, इस वक्त जो सस्पेंशन किया गया है पूरे सर्विस का, उससे काफ़ी लोगों को दिक्कत होगी, लेकिन क्या आपको नहीं लगता कि ये जो प्रोसेसेस है ये शुरू में ही सेट होने चाहिए, rather than कि आप ऑपरेट करो और फिर कोर्ट के जो है चक्कर काटो टू गेट दिस सॉर्ट ऑफ क्लियरेंस? क्या ये सरकार के साथ बैठ के पहले ही नहीं सॉर्ट आउट कर लेना चाहिए था?
एकदम सही आपकी बात। पहली बात तो शुक्रिया अदा करना हो इस प्लेटफॉर्म हमारे बोलने का मौका दिया। देखिए, आप जितने भी अभी सर ने भी क्लियरली कहा कि जितने भी एग्रीगेटर कंपनीज है, नॉट ओनली ओला, उबर, स्विगी, जोमेटो, अमेजोन, फ्लिपकार्ट, रैपिडो, बिग बास्केट, ये सारे एग्रीगेटर गाइडलाइंस, ये एग्रीगेटर कंपनीज को कानून नहीं बना, ठीक है। अगर जो आप देखेंगे ये सारे कंपनीज दिने दिन पे बढ़ते जा रहे, ठीक है। और पहले ये सारे, अभी नीति आयोग का रिपोर्ट भी आप उठा के देख सकते हैं कि हमारे पास अभी तक 77 लाख है, तो अभी उसको जाके 2.38 करोड़ होने वाला है 29-30 के अंदर। तो ये वर्कफोर्स इतना बढ़ रहा, इस कंपनीज, एग्रीगेटर कंपनीज भी दिने दिन पे नए कंपनीज आते जा रहे हैं। तो ये इसके ऊपर एक रूल्स फ्रेम होना चाहिए, नंबर 1। नंबर 2, जैसा आज ने महाराष्ट्र के अंदर कोर्ट ने जो इनके ऊपर की 1 हफ्ते के लिए, आप देखे होंगे कर्नाटक में भी, केरला में भी और बैंगलोर में लास्ट वीक भी इसके ऊपर लगाम लगा दिए। फिर उसके बाद में तुरंत ही लोग ने फिर सुप्रीम कोर्ट को जाके, हाई कोर्ट को वहाँ पे जाके लोकल फिर से अपना काम स्टार्ट किया। तो इसके ऊपर जैसा आपने कहा स्टार्टिंग में, अगर जाए इस कंपनी ने, जैसा कि एक टैक्सी ड्राइवर को, बाइक ड्राइवर को जब आपसे जुड़ रहे, उसके रूल्स क्या होना चाहिए? मोटर व्हीकल एक्ट में है कि 1988 में आपको क्लियर है कि बाइक टैक्सी का अगर जब बना के आप चला सकते हैं, व्हाइट प्लेट से आप इलीगली गाड़ी नहीं चला सकते। वो कंपनीज को भी पता है, रैपिडो कंपनी को भी पता है, ओला को भी पता है, बाइक टैक्सी, उबर बाइक टैक्सी, ये सारे बाइक टैक्सी कंपनीज को पता है। फिर भी वो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन नहीं करके जो है आज के तारीख में सबको बोल दे रहे कि आप जो है बंद कर दिए, अच्छी बात है। मगर एक चीज मैं यहाँ पे बताना चाह रहा हूँ, इस सड़क बंद करने की वजह से जो गरीब तबके का जो बाइक टैक्सी का बंदा है उसके तो रोजी रोटी पे असर गिरेंगी गिरेंगी। अगर
बिल्कुल।
जाए पहली चीज अगर जाए ये होती थी तो जो वो बंदा बाइक टैक्सी येलो प्लेट बना के जुड़ता था उस कंपनी में वही सर्विस दे सकता था और वो कंपनी के लिए भी अकाउंटेबिलिटी और ट्रांसपेरेंसी रहती थी और हमारे लिए भी रहती थी। जैसे कि आप देखे होंगे रैपिडो के बाइक टैक्सी के ऊपर घटने भी बहुत सारे हुए कस्टमर्स के साथ के बाइक टैक्सी
तो वो
ड्राइवर
जो
को।
है वो सरकार की जिम्मेदारी बन जाती है। तो आपने सही कहा कि कुछ सेफ्टी के नाते भी कुछ नियम बांधने होते हैं और इस केस में आपने खुद ही कहा है कि कुछ नियमों का उल्लंघन हुआ है रैपिडो की तरफ से। बट आई वांट टू आस्क यू मिस्टर चिबर दैट द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, इफ आई एम नॉट मिस्टेकन, in 2004 the Indian government allowed motorbikes to be used as transport vehicles and their registration as such, but left it to the discretion of the state transport departments. So would you say that this is now entirely up to the state governments to take cognizance of the matter and to set things in order?
Well, transportation per se is a subject which is in the concurrent list.
That's
So
right.
really, it's not within the domain of the central government to impose regulations. And that's why transportation is actually being actively governed directly by the state transport departments. Yes, there can be advisories given to them so that there is a broad framework which everybody adheres to. But even these advisories, as and when they are issued, they are done after a lot of deep and extensive consultation with state governments. So if we take this present instance of two-wheelers, which is now before us, I would have thought since 2-3 states have already started and allowed two-wheelers to operate, their experience and their understanding how it is working, how it is impacting other forms of transportation, public transportation, etc.
Yes.
That should have quickly been taken on board and a broad sort of framework developed in case we want to have this as a means of public transport.
Yes.
If
Because
the government in its wisdom, because of a variety of reasons, decides that this is not a very viable and a safe means of public transport, so be it. And I'm very happy that the courts have not really, decided the law. They have left it to the state government and through the state government,
Yes.
perhaps the federal government, to have a look at it and given them time to apply their mind and create some kind of an overarching framework
Right.
within which these companies, if they are to be allowed, they should
Yes.
work within that framework.
yes, this is one of the
Certainly,
things. Okay, please finish. Yes, go ahead.
Certainly, it can't be a gunshot wedding that I have brought my fleet on the ground and so many people's livelihoods are at stake, and therefore I should be allowed to continue till you come up with a framework. That's not
Right.
something
Right.
which any sensible government should
Yes.
encourage.
Yes.
And as regards the food delivery part, there are two-wheelers which are being used for delivery of packages and food, etc. There are already guidelines in the MVA, Motor Vehicle Act, and the rules thereunder, which prescribe the size of the box which can be carried on a two-wheeler. That size has been determined from a safety perspective and a balance of the vehicle after taking into consideration the balance of the vehicle, etc.
Yes.
And but that is again being flouted by many of the vehicles you see on the road who are
No, I
carrying
absolutely get your point. There can be no compromise on safety and, for the consumers, for the commuters. And there can be a win-win situation here. It's just that both sides have to work it out. I'll have to leave it at that, Mr. Vijay Chibar. And Mr. Sheikh Ji, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.